96.7 KCAL rocks. It is on a Monday, and that means let's do a little bit of sports with our guy, Pep. Pep, there was some madness, my friend.
And that's putting it lightly, Patrick. March Madness, the big dance, the NCAA tournament. If you are down with carnage, just complete destruction, that's what we had at the big dance this year. And listen, Patrick, every single year I walk away from the NCAA tournament saying, man, I've never seen that before. And this year was exactly the case again, as all the number one seeds are out. None of them reached the Final Four. None of them got to the Elite Eight. We've got a bunch of, I think, fun teams and interesting teams, but not the traditional, they call them the blue bloods, right? The Kentuckys, right. The North Carolinas, the Kansases, I'd even throw maybe Gonzaga in there because they've been so good for so long. Man, but we've got a random Final Four out there, and I'll list them off real quick before we dive in a little bit deeper. But San Diego State, our Aztecs are in, UConn, Florida Atlantic, and the University of Miami. It's kind of weird, Patrick, to say that out loud, but that's your Final Four this year.
I think it is awesome. And I mean, I know this is kind of a sidebar. We don't have to steer too far off of it. But Charles Barkley went on record saying that he thinks college basketball is ruined. And I could not disagree with him more. He was making it sound like what it used to be is what's happening now. He's like, you're only going to have a few teams who do really well. Charles, what are you talking about? Yeah. This is a completely different Final Four. And I think it's freaking cool. Of course, I'm a little partial to San Diego State. I'm not going to lie. I think it's cool that they made it that far. But hey, man, NIL has kind of opened up the gates a little bit to all these other schools like Florida Atlantic to make it to something like this. I think it's cool. It's made college basketball better. It used to be ruined by the NBA.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love college basketball for this reason. And it's always kind of been like this, right? We always saw like an underdog, we call them a Cinderella, knock off one of these, highly ranked teams once in a while. But this year, I mean, it was complete carnage. And I think that's why we love college basketball, because anything can happen in one game. When you look at college football, would a Florida Atlantic possibly, I know they were kind of good when Lane Kiffin was there, but they're not going to go off and beat Alabama or Clemson or, Notre Dame or Georgia, one of these teams. Like, that doesn't happen in college football. But it happens in college basketball. You only have to be better in that one game. And we've seen enough March Madness that we know anything can happen. Like these teams like a Florida Atlantic or San Diego State, they're not intimidated going up against like these higher, big brand college basketball programs.
No, we don't have a little bit less of the one and done, and a little more is being put back into college basketball rather than it just being AAU basketball. Mm-hmm. That's what it was for a while.
Mm-hmm. No, you're exactly right, Patrick. So I think it's fun. I don't think it's ruined college basketball. It's made it more interesting, especially if you don't necessarily have a team in the fight. Like, hey, if you're a Duke fan, you're probably upset because, the standard, the level has risen with all the other programs. Everyone's getting a little bit closer to you. But if you're one of these teams like a San Diego State or a Florida Atlantic, I actually looked at their record. They're actually really good, but nobody talks about them because, well, they're Florida Atlantic. Nobody talks about them.
That's right. They're Florida Atlantic. Why would we? But now we will, which is cool.
Yes, it is cool. So it's going to be Florida Atlantic, who's a 9 seed, against San Diego State, who's a 5. And then we have Miami, who's also a 5 seed, going up against UConn. And Connecticut is probably the only traditional college basketball power that made it to the Final Four. And they were a 4 seed. It's not like they were a 1 or a 2. They were a 4 this year.
And man, did they shred Gonzaga. My goodness, If you're UCLA, you got to think we would have done better than that. Yeah. I thought Gonzaga would do better, and they didn't. It makes me think UCLA would have done a lot more damage, maybe even possibly won.
Yeah, maybe. But if you look at the tail of the tape for UConn, they've killed everybody in the tournament. Like, I don't know what got into those guys, but they're playing really good basketball right now. But yeah, I kind of felt like UCLA would probably give the University of Connecticut a better game had they reached that point. But shoulda, coulda, woulda, right at this point of the big dance. And just a quick shout out. We've done this before. I'm going to do it again. San Diego State, 2 of their starting 5 are right here from the IE. Lamont Butler from Riverside Poly High School and Matt Bradley out of San Bernardino High School leading the Aztecs to their first ever Final Four, Patrick. They've had some great teams, including those Kawhi Leonard teams, but they never made it to the Final Four. This team has done it.
Right. I was just going to mention Kawhi Leonard because that was a really cool part of San Diego State, with Coach Fisher and all that stuff. Yeah. The ex-Fab Five Michigan coach. Yeah. He was the first one to kind of get him into the tournament, and it looks like they've finally taken the next step. I think it's really cool.
It is. This could be the year, man. Can you believe it? San Diego State national champions. Like, unbelievable, man.
Marshall Faulk will be like, yeah,
Yeah.
baby. Yeah. I told you.
I mean, just real quick, I'm not going to harp on this too much, but San Diego State basketball has a real shot to win a national title. Would San Diego State football ever have a chance to win a national championship? Are they going to play Alabama in a playoff? Like, I just don't see that scenario. Not yet, but, that's why college basketball is fun. It's not being ruined. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm down with it. From college basketball to the NBA, we did actually see the return of LeBron James for the Lakers on Sunday. They did lose to the Chicago Bulls 118-108, but after 13 games, LeBron James is back. And what's interesting here, Patrick, is in that 13-game absence without LeBron, the Lakers actually went 8-5, and they rose to number 9 in the Western Conference. So I'm not saying they're a better team without LeBron, but when you look at the numbers, they actually won more games without LeBron James.
Right. And I know that LeBron is always going to give it 100% and all that stuff, but there was a little spring training vibe to this game where LeBron, you could tell, was not going crazy. He wanted to make sure and just get in the game, get back in the flow.
Yeah.
He didn't look to me like he was going 100%, but I think actually he's that good.
Yeah.
He can, afford to lose a couple games to kind of get back in the swing of things. It was very spring training feeling to me.
Yeah, just keep the boat afloat, right? Like, if you can stay in a playoff spot and let LeBron get a little bit more healthy, because there was conversation that he might not even come back this year. He might have to get surgery, or he might be out for the whole regular season and the playoffs if the Lakers made it. But he's back now, so maybe he's going to, slide back in easily and back into the rotation and the lineup and see if that foot's going to feel okay. But yeah, the Lakers were actually okay without him in the lineup.
Yeah, we'll see with the push what happens.
Yep, and the push is on right now with just a handful of games left in the regular season. Finally, Patrick, let's talk some Major League Baseball. The regular season gets underway this week, but as tradition has it, the Dodgers and the Halos have the old preseason exhibition Freeway Series coming up this week to lead into the regular season. That's always kind of fun.
Always so much fun. Such a cool game, man. And it really means, all right, here we go. When that game is finally getting close, it means the season's about to start.
Yeah, they play in their Major League Baseball stadiums. They pack up from spring training. They come back to Southern California. They play in the big stadium. So it feels a little bit more real as we get to the start of the regular season on Thursday. And for the starting pitchers on opening day, the Angels are going to open up at the A's, and Shohei Ohtani will be the opening day starter for the Halos. And we knew this back on February 16th. The Angels were the first team in baseball to come out and say, hey, we know who our starting pitcher is going to be on opening day. It's Shohei Ohtani. They had no doubt, man. They've known this for months that he was their number one. No doubt about it.
Right. When you got the guy who's on top of the world, especially right now, he already was before, and now, in Japan, in the United States, and now the World Baseball Classic. He literally is on his pedestal right now. It just makes sense. It's perfect. It's like, yeah, Babe Ruth is our pitcher. Psh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's the man, especially like if you're an A's fan up in Oakland, hey, they've got some fans, but they don't draw huge crowds. Are they going to go out and see Shohei Ohtani? Oh, yeah, you can bet that place is going to be rocking. It's going to be full. It's opening day, and Ohtani on the mound. Man, who's going to miss that? I don't care what Major League Baseball city you're in.
Yeah, and it's nice now. Mike Trout and Shohei can make up. They're on the same team, right? Everything will be all cool.
What do you think that conversation's like when they get back to the clubhouse? Like, man, dude, I'm sorry I struck you out to win the World Baseball Classic. I'm sure they're cool. I'm sure Ohtani has a lot of respect for Mike Trout, and I'm sure it goes both ways. But, yeah, that's still kind of maybe a little bit awkward.
I think it's a little game recognizes game thing.
Yes.
They both realize that they're both one of the greatest at what they do. It just happens to Shohei can also do what Mike Trout does. Mike Trout cannot do what Shohei does. Shohei is that special.
Yeah, and he's going to get paid. Remember, this is a contract year. At the end of this year, hopefully he's still an Angel. We don't know that, but he's going to get paid big time.
That's probably why the owner was trying to sell the team. He didn't want to pay Shohei so much freaking money, dude, right?
He's going to be worth more than the team.
Maybe that means he's going to stay with the Angels. We will get caught up with Pep on Thursday. Pep, tell me how to get your stuff.
Get my stuff on Inland Sports. That's Inland Sports on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. That's Inland Sports on YouTube as well. Inland Sports.
Perfect, dude.